Excuse me, Monday early look. Wow, what day is this? It's Thursday. Thursday early look. Just a couple of announcements again. I'm going away for the weekend, but I will have my computer, so you probably won't even notice that I'm not around if you want to know the truth. I guess that was pretty much it. I did post the MMA DFS preview video already. The betting video will come down in the next day or so. And if you are going to play MMA, just remember that it's a 1 p.m. start time Eastern because it's in London, which is awesome, actually. And I guess that was pretty much all I had. For those of you that were there last night for the late night sweat, you already know how we did, and we were sweating a couple of people. I think Scott was his name. I forget. He ended up getting second in the single entry, which is really good. We had Brandon Cruz who made the money in that. We were sweating that, so that was definitely a lot of fun. And we're on to a I think. We keep saying this, but then 6 hours from now, news will come out. Whatever. It seems like a very pedestrian type of slate at first look, meaning that there's very, very little value to come by, which means, again, if this actually held, that it would be probably tough to get some of these studs in. So that's my 30,000 foot view. Would you take a look at the slate from that perspective, or you just want to go,
Yeah, I agree. Right now, there's not a whole lot and to be honest with you, there's a few questionable tags, but it's probably going to be someone we haven't even thought about yet, or something that something ends up happening to, because right now it does feel like a very no value, kind of a fun old school kind of slate, which I would love, and I'm ready for it. So I'm hoping that things don't change too much. But having said that, we know they probably will.
284 for first. Bring it on.
284 for first. The Sheets special.
Yep. Bring it on.
All right. Let's pull up your screen and we'll
let's do that. Screen, and boom. Okay. Almost boom. There you go.
And good luck to everyone today at the NCAA tournaments and everything. There's a lot of stuff going on. I only played a few pools myself, but should be a fun tournament. The more research I did a little bit of research on it, and it was it just looked like it'll be a fun tournament. Hopefully, my UCLA guys can do well. I also want to give a shout out to Shrek for taking everything down last night. A good guy. I only know him basically from Twitter and stuff. And we one of the guys we let's say our views are aligned on a lot of things. So he's a good dude, and always near the top of the NBA leaderboards, and he won about, I think, 350 last night. So
nice.
Anyway, all right, we move on to Denver and Detroit today. Sheets. This is a game where I think you're going to get look, there's not a whole lot of things to choose from today, right? I do think that if there's some team that would do anything weird, it might be Detroit, but we'll know that before lock. And as of right now, I just have a bunch of guys who are showing up as okay on the Detroit side. I think that the Magruder thing is right now, the early ownership projections, I just don't buy him being double digit under 5K with Ivy coming back. But on the Denver side, I think Jokic and Murray are both terrific plays. I don't really have a lot of love in everything else, but it's a smaller slate. So if things stay the way they are, I might use a little bit of KCP, and we might be forced into, or people might feel forced into guys like Magruder. I probably would go Omarui ahead of him, but not like a game that I'm overly excited about. But there's not a whole lot on this slate to find. So I think spending up for Jokic, if we end up getting enough value, is perfectly reasonable. And if not, I think Jamal Murray is my favorite player from Denver. I don't mind a large field Michael Porter Jr. play. That's pretty much my stuff for this game.
Yeah. Again, I'm probably going to end up middling my lineups here a little bit unless value opens up. So the guy that you mentioned is my favorite and maybe my only play from the game, and that would be Jamal Murray. That would be where I would go. I just don't know how I can get. At least now, I don't know how I can get to Jokic. It would be, listen, it would be nice if I could play him, I guess. But he certainly rates to be him and Giannis. Those are two guys who are that rate to score 10 more fantasy points than the next guy, right? So seems like you want to play them, but as they say, this is a salary cap game, and if it means I'm going to have to play guys like we'll get to some of them, but like Phoenix guys or something like that. These are the guys I'm looking at that are under 4K, for example. It's tough, and it's like it goes back to the question I asked you again within the first, not with the first week, but maybe the first couple of weeks of me playing DFS. I just asked you a very simple question. It seemed like a simple question. I said, "Hey, I have a question. Like, what's better to play the 9K guy with the 3K guy, or 2 6K guys, right?" And you're like, "Well, it just kind of depends, right?" And I say, "Well, yeah, it's true, but like in general, is it better?" Yeah, and that the funny thing is that question, like extrapolated into like 75 different lineup spots, is really the question of DFS, right? Like do you play the top rated guy along with kind of guys that rates and written crappy, or do you play like middling guys? And it depends on how crappy the crappy guy is, how great the top guy is, and how decent the middling guy is. So like on a card like this, or like on a slate like this, you have two choices. If you really love these big studs like Giannis or Jokic, you have to kind of close your eyes and eat it and know that you're probably going to have crappy value and you hope that 12 points is enough. But if you can live without the Jokic and Giannis and you can find some good middling plays like Jamal Murray or whatever, and you go that way. And that's kind of what makes it fun. So with that kind of philosophy in the background, I'm going to go with Jamal Murray from Denver and probably pass the rest of the game.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. All right, why don't you start off with the next one, OKC Toronto.
All right. You have Pascal Siakam, who has been kind of really trending down as far as his performance goes, but he fits the price range of who I want to kind of look for today. So Siakam at 8,400 looks decent, and Van Vliet always is playable. But they moved him up a little bit. See, it used to be like Siakam was like 9,700 recently, and Van Vliet was always around 82. And now I guess for good reason, I guess they've kind of almost flipped. Yeah, Van Vliet is actually more expensive now than Siakam. I think either of those two guys you could probably play here. And then if you could if you could afford to get to Shea, I think that's pretty reasonable. You play either Van Vliet with Shea, you play Siakam with Shea. It's going to be tough to afford, but I think you could try to do something like that. With respect to value, really nothing. I mean, Trent at 4,300 would be the only thing I would even attempt. Then again, Trent, we did consider playing him at like close to 6K for a while. So maybe he's that terrible value play you can make. I don't know. So Van Vliet, Siakam, Shea would be like the main guys.
Yeah, I mean,
you're struggling over there.
Yeah, it just feels like the absolute wrong thing to do to play Siakam here. And I get the feeling this play might end up being more popular than he's even being projected right now. It's just we've seen what happened. Like, I mean, they're playing better basketball. Their Podol's involved a lot. I keep saying this, but they run that high screen and roll with Van Vliet and Podol like all the time. I prefer Van Vliet, but even the price is a little bit uncomfortable for me there. I don't know where I want to go with this game, but I definitely would like to do something against OKC, especially Scotty Barnes, maybe. I really don't have a strong take on this. Gary Trent as a value at the moment, which is a value that may not exist later on, like may not seem like anything, but right now looks like a reasonable value. I don't know. I feel like it's really hard for me to pick. I think that if there's no ownership, I would take a shot on Podol. But I'm curious where the ownership ends up. If he's sub 10%, that might be a play I decide to make. And then Shea at 9,600, even in a bad matchup, I'll take a shot. Nobody. I mean, this might be the early look of the slate. Like nobody you're all that excited about. Like that's for me. There's nobody I've even written down that I feel like, oh, I need to play this guy tonight. I need to make sure to remember to play this guy. can't really find anything that I'm all that in love with in any game yet. So hoping we find some more stuff in the later games, because so far I'm pretty uninterested.
Okay,
You ready to move on more? Sacramento and Brooklyn?
Yeah. So this is where I'm actually getting some stuff. So I guess given like price and all of that, and again context of the slate, I guess my favorite play, I guess on the slate, is probably going to be Dinwiddie. At 7,900. I mean, he projects well enough. He fits that mid-range kind of price. So I like that. Sabonis at 10-1. If you can get to him, I think you could do that. Fox is still below 9K. Very, very tempting there. Now, when it comes to some value, though, I will say that if you have to pick like some kind of crappy value, I think that I don't even say bad value. Like I got Claxton. These are not cheap though. Like Claxton, what's his name? Cam Johnson. I guess he's okay. I don't want to play Dorian Finney-Smith if I don't have to. Seth Curry, 33. Is this the day you have to? Not you have to. Is this the day you get away with playing Seth Curry? So yeah, I guess like in the absence of anything else, this is probably a game to go after, right? You play either Sabonis, you play Fox, and you play maybe Dinwiddie and another mid-range guy, and hope you could just get the lineups to work. I don't know. I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to keep in mind is Trey Lyles sat out last night. I think he's expected to play tonight, but he's been over 20 fantasy points in 6 straight games. He's been getting good run with them. He's a value guy I think you could use if we don't have other value. I do like the idea of playing one of Fox or Sabonis here. A little discount off of spending all the way up for Jokic and Giannis. But yeah, right now I have those as my favorites. I think this is like, I mean, look, when you can get, I know that there was that they played last night as a back-to-back and everything. I don't usually love jump shooters in a back-to-back, but we know like Malik Monk now has been over 30 fantasy points 3 out of his last 4. And he's not, the run, he hasn't played more than 24 minutes in any of those games, but he is a heat check guy who can make it happen. So I think Monk would be like a good low-owned value if the slate was ending right now. On the Brooklyn side, which is always the tricky one outside of Dinwiddie, I think Dinwiddie's the pretty clear cut. Like if you're starting your cash games, you build Dinwiddie first. I think he's like the best point per dollar play right now, and he's 7,900. Just kind of crazy. Cameron Johnson I like, but at crazy high ownership, I tend to look for the fade just because there is like Royce O'Neal could take over some of his minutes, I think, and he did a couple times. So it's sort of up in the air. I think he's a good play, but at 40% ownership or probably higher, I don't know if I'm going to end up making that one. And same thing with I mean, Finney-Smith is another one. The one who's intriguing to me is that I probably like the most is Bridges outside of Dinwiddie, and I think you could play those Bridges and Dinwiddie together with with one of the Sabonis or Fox, with one of Lyles or Monk, and I think you have a nice little game stack. I mean, it hasn't really hurt us. It would have been really nice to get that overtime last night. Last night in overtime, probably would have won me, probably cost me about $3,000 or $4,000 at least, because I had all of my lineups had those, or all my good lineups had Levine or Fox or Sabonis or whatnot, including the one that bubbled or just missed on the 888. Anyway, all this to say that I do like this game to target. I think I'll be mixing and matching, but right now my favorite pieces are Dinwiddie, Bridges, one of Sabonis, Fox with either Lyles or Malik Monk. And it's a slate where I don't mind playing Harrison Barnes and Dorian Finney-Smith just because we don't have a lot of other stuff. So this is definitely the game that I'm targeting right now. So as you mentioned, so this is probably my favorite spot on the slate so far.
It's sort of amazing what Michael Bridges is kind of becoming this year, huh?
I mean, I don't think it's amazing. I think what the NBA is a league of, there's probably 300 guys that could score 20 points a game in modern NBA. And I think when you give guys a chance to have 35% usage, it's going to be almost impossible not to put up. I mean, literally, you wouldn't be in the NBA if you couldn't put up numbers.
That makes sense.
But Bridges is a very good basketball player, but in the future, I expect him to be like a I think he's actually improved too, but I think he's more of like a right around just under sub 20 point per game guy. I don't think he's this monster player on a really good team. I know he put up some numbers for Phoenix, but that was when Chris Paul and Devin Booker were out. I'm not going to go, okay, well, this means Mikal Bridges is the best, but I do think he's a really good basketball player. All right, so then we have the one game before the Island game sheets. This is where everything could go completely crazy because you have 4 guys questionable. I think all legit questionable on Indiana. This is the one spot where there's that stuff to know. Halliburton, Hield, Turner, McConnell. And I really, it's going to be very hard to break this down without knowing who's playing of those guys. As of right now, I know Nesmith looks like a good projection play. I'm not really sure why exactly on SaberSim. I think they're sort of accounting that maybe some of these guys are out. But how do we break down a slate where their 4 main guys are going to be out? And how do we break down a game where the 4 main guys are out?
Well, we'll start with the blurbs, I guess. I mean, based on the last comments yesterday from Halliburton, it looks to say trending in the right direction. So I think Halliburton, boy, at 9,700 on a slate in the absence of value is very, very tough. Especially if guys are out and this game gets disgusting, which it could. I don't know if that's the best way to spend the 9,700. And then I'd love to take a shot and play like Halliburton and Giannis, and see, but you do that on this slate with leaving 4,700 a man. That's tough. I mean, it's tough today. So, I mean, you could play Giannis, I guess, but I mean, but the point is what you just mentioned. I mean, like you have all these guys that are questionable. To speculate as to who's going to be starting right now is kind of silly. But then again, it is like an 8:00 game, so you have to, you know what I mean? Like you're not going to probably get all the news before you have to make some decisions, and so you have to kind of look at the slate here. So the good thing is it's set at the 7:00 game. I don't think I'm going to get much, if any. You know what I mean? I'll get Murray, but I guess you do have to decide whether you're going to play Jokic or not, right? So that's the decision you have to make. OKC Toronto. I mean, do we really love anything from that game? No, but Sacramento Brooklyn we might. So yeah, we're going to really need to know this Indiana Milwaukee thing pretty in time, I think. But we can't do anything about it now. We just got to wait, But we know what to do. Listen, if they're all out, you'll see. We don't have to speculate. We'll know who to play. We'll update the projections, and we'll just know what to do.
Yeah, it does like the price might feel high for Halliburton. Probably worth noting that he's averaging 58 fantasy points a game since the All-Star break when he plays. So this might actually be too cheap for Halliburton, and he's going to be the low owned. So I will absolutely make my mark on making sure to try to get some Halliburton, which is probably going to force me into like if I was able to afford it on a different slate, I would be trying to play a Halliburton Giannis lineup. Now, I don't know how to do that without value.
Yeah.
But, like, if you wanted to get, I don't know, some of the fringy value, like Joe Ingles, Javon Carter in this game, depending on who else plays for Indy, there could be some potential value. But as I always pointed out, and I'm very, very happy with the way I said it the other night, the Indy value is always suspect because they have like 10, 11 guys they will play. They're not going to just – other than like Nembhard without McConnell and Halliburton kind of a thing. They're like all the wings, like when everyone wants to play Nesmith, well, Nwora just as likely to get all those minutes. Brissett occasionally will creep in there for them. Everybody wants to play Isaiah Jackson. It could just as likely be Jalen Smith. James Johnson is now in the mix. They still have Daniel Tice if they want to dust him off. So they have a lot of like just an unbelievable amount of guys. I don't know how they have it. Like every night if they show up with like 19 guys, it looks like they could play. But I guess it's I don't know. This is tough. I do really like the idea of playing Halliburton. One of the if I could have my way, I would have Halliburton, one of the Sacramento guys, one of with one of the Dinwiddie run back or something like that as sort of like a natural way to build. I just can't quite find the value yet to make that work. But maybe as the day goes on, we will find some more value, and maybe we'll have to reach for some of this value in this Phoenix game. Do you have anything? Was there any like value that you could talk yourself into here? It's hard to do, right? This early in the day.
In the Indiana game or the Phoenix game? Oh,
in the Indiana. Well, we can transition over to the Phoenix game now.
Yeah, I mean, I could do some Phoenix stuff. I mean, like I could play Cameron Payne at 3,400.
Yep.
Part of it is, and I suppose I could play Torrey Craig at 3,800. Because part of it is what's the spread? 10, 12? I mean, it's got to be something, right?
It's only 8.
Oh, that's it.
Orlando's been really competitive.
They have been, but Phoenix is tough, and I don't know. You get the right game script.
Are we just saying Phoenix is tough, or are they actually?
I think Phoenix is tough.
But what about that makes them tough? They're a 500 basketball team, basically. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like maybe we just give them respect because they had a good couple seasons, and they're definitely on the downside of that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just playing devil's advocate this morning.
No, that's fine. So, in either case, I think Cam Payne at 3,400 is fair enough, I guess. He'll get 18 minutes, something like that, and hey, if the game blows out, he can get more. Whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess that's reasonable. Every time I play Kogi, he doesn't do anything. Probably not going to do that at 5K. And I wouldn't know what to do if I played for like a really good, a real good fantasy game. I wouldn't even know who to play. I guess Wendell Carter Jr. maybe for Orlando. That would be my top Orlando guy, I suppose. And then for Phoenix, I mean, look, they're probably going to – listen, Booker's probably going to have a good game, right? So why not? He's worth a shot. Ayton, he could probably have a good game. Paul, he could have a good game. This is 285 points today. It just is.
It feels like it right now. That's certainly for sure. I am on the my Phoenix side. I like again one of the three. My favorites in order would be Booker if you could afford him, but that's going to be hard to do. Booker, Paul, then Ayton, but I like all three of them. And that's sort of what I'm coming up with as a first look type of thing. Who do we, Booker, Paul, Ayton, like as a one of those three as a group. One of Sabonis or Fox, Bridges and or Dinwiddie. Then you get the Halliburton, Giannis. Those are the guys I want to spend for. I just don't feel comfortable with any of this value. I kind of I get the Cameron Payne thing. I think I would be more likely to play Torrey Craig than Cameron Payne. The only problem with the Payne thing is that he wasn't getting the minutes back. And then on the back-to-back, they played him on both sides of it more minutes. But that seems more like it was to protect Paul. The Suns are on a losing streak. I think that they're going to put their best foot forward here at home tonight. So I like these guys. I just don't have a great run back from Orlando. Probably the best run back would be Cole Anthony or Jalen Suggs, and you're just hoping that Cole Anthony gets hot and that Jalen Suggs, stays on the court for 30 minutes, basically. But those two guys have been sort of the good wild card plays for the Magic, especially as of late. This is one slate where I'm not going to mind if you end up with some Gary Harris, just because he's starting. He's 3,500. I know those other guys take away from him, but the fact that he's projecting for like 14 fantasy points I guess that's okay. I know he only scored 7 in the last game, but he scored 26 and 24 the 2 games before that. He's been starting that for a while, and I think his average is probably a little closer to 18 than it is to 14, so I'm not really sure why that's lower. But that's the kind of stuff you're talking about in terms of value today. There's really not much there. Dinwiddie as the priority. As I mentioned, one of Booker, Paul, Ayton, one of Sabonis, Fox. Try to get what you can from the Sacramento-Brooklyn game. If you can afford Halliburton, I love that play as at low ownership. One of the Toronto guys, one of the Denver guys, but nobody who I have like a strong, I must play this guy. It's really going to dictate, who plays later, mostly for Indiana, I guess, and whether we find any value. And if we don't find value, I'm going to be looking at builds like Dinwiddie, Murray, Ayton, or Paul, Bridges. Those will be like the high mid-range. And then you're playing like Omarui, Nick Claxton, who I forgot to mention earlier. Campaign would be a value, but Okogie in the mid-range is fine. Dorian Finney-Smith is fine. Nothing to be that excited about. So that also, every time I say that, those seem to be my better slates. So hopefully that works out well.
I mean, you're looking at the studs here. You have Jokic at a 100-point spread. You have Giannis at maybe a 100-point spread. I guess the best of the spend ups relative to that is probably Sabonis, I suppose. You know what I mean? Like, just at least that game is rates to be competitive. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. But again, maybe it's a good day to as of right now. I think it's probably a good day to try not to spend 10K if you can.
Right.
Because I don't know how we can do it. And I'm interested in Joanne's question. She's asking about our golf thing last night. I don't know what prize we're talking about. I didn't say anything about it.
Oh, yes, she's correct.
But she said I wrote it down. I wrote down what I said. I wrote down was all the plays we had. I wrote down all of our 10 golfers. I didn't know what the prize is. What is the prize, Sheets?
The prize was, again, if someone was able to put the 10 things in the chat that was at both things, I would give them a prize.
Oh, that's right. Somebody had to do it in the chat, though.
Yeah.
We never figured out what the prize. You never figured out a prize, right?
I told them that I was going to probably renege in advance. I'm just saying. But whose fault? I forgot to ask people to post it. So I'll double the prize for next week. So you know what they say? What 2 times 0 is? So I'll double it for I'll figure something out.
All right, sounds good. Sheets, anything else? I know this is kind of an ugly first look, guys, but this is where we're at today. It's kind of a weird slate.
Ugliness is next to godliness. I'll be more than happy to cash the $50,000 check that the 286 points is going to provide for me.
There you go. Well, hopefully I'm right there with you. All right. I guess that's pretty much it, right?
So here's the question. So it's right now 12:28. At 12:33, who gets ruled out? Is it going to be Halliburton or Booker or I don't know. It's going to be somebody. I don't know who it's going to be. We'll see.
Yep. I bet you're right. There's going to be. I don't think there's going to be anybody from Phoenix, but I do think that there might be somebody else. And as I say that out loud, I put it out in the universe, so that means it'll happen for sure. Somebody from Phoenix will be out. You can mark that one down.
I'm going to be sneaking in pretty late for the live today.
Okay.
So I'll do my best. And guys, if it's like 6:20 and the sheets are not updated, don't worry. They'll happen soon, or whatever. I'll get there in plenty of time.
All right, cool. Sounds good, everybody. Good luck to everybody tonight. Sorry we don't have more in-depth stuff to go into, but yeah, and enjoy the day of golf and basketball, and it's going to be a fun weekend.